Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be talking about the ethics of smurfing. So if you enjoy this content, please be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps out a ton on the channel. Come by, check out the stream as well. We start every night around 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We usually go until about 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we have tons of guides like this on the channel as well. Topical guides, champion guides, tier lists, patch notes, all sorts of content constantly coming out on the channel, so be sure to check that out. I'm going to try to bring you more of these little 15 to 30 minute guides about popular topics that are going on right now, so be sure to stay tuned for that. And make sure you click that bell and enable notifications if you want the notifications on YouTube. I know a lot of people on the stream have lately been telling me it hasn't been telling them about it, so just make sure you click those things if you want the notifications. You can also follow me on Twitter at @TheStratProf. I'm going to make an announcement every time I release a video and stream. And then Discord, the Strategy Professor on Discord, I'll announce it on there too. So there'll be lots and lots of announcements if you want to find the content. And I'm going to start releasing these types of videos, a league guide around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. And then I'm going to release some Warhammer content around noon Eastern Standard Time every day. And then once again, the stream starts around 11 p.m. So I'm going to try to release stuff at a set time every day. Then you have those 3 different platforms you can use for the notifications if you want to make sure that you get the new content. And I'm going to try to crank out a bunch more new, kind of shorter content for you, short for me, 15 to 30 minutes. So if you've been scared of my hour-long guides in the past, check out some of these newer, fresher things we're going to have coming out soon. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about smurfing for today. So there's been a lot of conversation about smurfing out there. I myself have been smurfing for the past couple of months or so, mostly smurfing, some of my main. I am a Diamond 4 main right now, but I've been smurfing mostly in gold. We just got into platinum on our smurf last week. But some of the stuff that I've learned about it and that I'll talk about here really quick, some useful stuff, some not so useful stuff about smurfing, and I've kind of become a bit more nuanced in how I think of it. I used to really hate smurfs on my main. I used to always talk down about smurfs, but I think there actually is some use in it, and I think that I can kind of understand why some other people would want to smurf as well, and it's not always all bad. So let's go into that a little bit here. So what is a smurf? Smurfing is playing on an account lower than your standard skill level, and I would say it needs to be probably a whole league lower. So if your main is, silver 2 and you're playing on a silver 4 account, that's not really smurfing. It's like a little bit, but not really. So for it to be smurfing, I think it would need to be you're playing on a silver 2 and your main is gold 2 or something like that. So a significant difference between sort of your maximum skill, where you could log into that main and perform, at least at a 50-50 level at a higher rank. That's what a smurf is. Now, if it's someone who hasn't played in a long time, let's say they haven't played in a couple of years and they used to be like Diamond 4, but they're currently going 50-50 in like a Gold 2 game or something like that. I don't know. It's a bit more debatable. I wouldn't consider that smurfing. But one of the main qualities of it is that you are able to perform at a higher level than most people in your games, or at least your maximum on your best character on your main account is going to be able to perform at a higher level than the current level that you're playing at. Okay, so why do people consider smurfing unethical? Well, this one's pretty straightforward. I think a lot of people are familiar with these reasons. So number one is it has the potential to make the game more difficult for people at lower elo brackets. And that's a lot of people are in silver, bronze, and iron, right? That makes up 75% of the population are those 3 brackets. So if you have someone who's like a platinum or a diamond player, especially playing down in your silver 3 games, and you're just naturally in silver 3, then that's going to feel bad for you, potentially, right? Because, they're going to be performing at a much higher rate than other people. Now, I will say it's important to note that this will not stop you from climbing if you're in silver 3 or silver 4, because it's going to be symmetrical, right? If you play the game for, 200 games a season or something like that, you're going to get smurfs on your team just as much as they're going to get smurfs on their team. So, yes, it does potentially make the games feel a little bit more chaotic, because sometimes you'll get blown out by a smurf on the enemy team. Sometimes your team will blow out the other team with smurfs. But it will not stop you from climbing. If you're playing better than other silver 3 players, you will climb. So just the fact that you see a smurf occasionally on the enemy team is not going to stop you from climbing, because you're going to have Smurfs on your team too. I talk about that a lot on my toxicity video that I released a few days ago, so be sure to check that out if you want to. But pretty much anything that's going on in League is going to be symmetrical except for you. And what that means is anything bad that's going on is going to happen to both teams, whether it's smurfing, whether it's win trading or boosting and like challenger level accounts. Anything you can think of, whether it's people picking troll picks, you know, picking your Teemo jungle or your Master Yi support, whether it's people AFKing, any of that stuff is going to be symmetrical over the long run, right? So you might get some of that stuff, you know, that happens to you a lot. Maybe that happens to you 4 or 5 games in a row out of 10 games. But then if you keep playing, if you play it out for another 70 games, it'll equal out, right? It'll be the same amount on the enemy team as it is on our team. It just feels like it happens more to us because we remember it when it's on our team, right? Because that's a negative emotion, and we tend to remember negative emotions a lot more. So we'll remember when that guy, you know, picked some goofy pick and went 0-10 on our team, but we're a lot less likely to remember it, you know, a week later when someone did that on the enemy team, picked something goofy and went 0-10. We just win that game and go about our life. We don't really remember it, but we do remember the troll stuff on our team. So really it's just a trick that our mind and our memory plays to make it seem like bad stuff is happening to us more often. Whereas if you go back and you actually statistically look at all of your games, right, just look at the picks on your team, look at the picks on the enemy team over like a 100 game sample size. You can do this on op.gg. Just look at your last, I think it'll show you up to 30 days. You know, I challenge you, if you think that you are being targeted and there's, you know, a lot of troll stuff going on, a disproportionate amount of troll stuff, just keep track of that and just look at it. You know, look at both teams, look at the KDAs on both teams, look at the picks on both teams over time, and if you're being objective about it, if you're being honest, you're going to notice in the vast, vast majority of cases that it's going to be about equal, right? That you're going to have really bad stuff on your team, they're going to have really bad stuff on their team. A lot of times it's just going to come down to how you perform. Okay, so keep that in mind, that yes, this will make some games lopsided, but it will not stop you from climbing if you're playing better than other people. So that's one thing, is it can make lower games more difficult. Boosting in duos, so this gets into like undeserved elo, so some people playing with their friends and getting boosted up, or paying for somebody to boost them up, and you know, they shouldn't be in gold, they shouldn't be in platinum or whatever. They're getting the rewards, they're getting the borders. That doesn't feel fair. And then it's kind of like the inverse of smurfing, right? If somebody got boosted up to platinum and then all of a sudden they're trying to play by themselves without their duo, or they're no longer paying somebody to boost them, then it can make platinum games feel uneven, right? Because you have this person who you feel like is this really weak link that maybe had been a silver player, they got boosted up to platinum, duoing with their buddy or whatever the case is. That can make platinum games feel uneven too. So it happens at all elo brackets. I mean, this will happen all the way up to diamond and challenger, right? You'll see someone in challenger that gets a, you know, a diamond person on their team, or someone who is like rated challenger but is just getting stomped by like diamond people, and you'll think, man, that person was boosted. So it never really goes away. So it can go both ways, right? Someone can feel like they're too high of an elo and they're throwing the game that way, and someone can feel like they are, you know, smurfing and they're too low of an elo for their skill, and it throws the game that way. So it can happen both ways, but that's something that kind of makes people mad, is that undeserved elo. And then in general, with a lot of smurf people, especially if they're smurfing, you know, in silver or gold, there's been there's a higher likelihood there's been toxicity from that player in the past, right? Because they've made a new account. So maybe they got banned on their main account, they were platinum because they just have a really bad attitude, or they're saying a bunch of, you know, racist stuff, or telling people to kill themselves, or, you know, just all of that is people with bad attitudes. Then they're going to make new accounts, and those accounts are going to start off a lot of times in bronze and silver, and so you're just going to encounter that, and that sucks because that's where a lot of new people start, is in bronze and silver. So they're starting you off with a community that is more likely to be toxic than the standard community, I guess, as you go up. But yeah, that's just something too, is that Smurfs get a bad rap because a lot of them, not a lot, but there's a decent chunk of them that have been disciplined in the past and are making new accounts. So there's going to be more Smurfs that fall into that category than normal people that fall into that category. Also, people are just not going to care as much in their lower bracket. So maybe, you know, they don't want their main to get banned, their platinum account or whatever, with all of their skins and all of that stuff. They don't want that to get banned, But if they're just down there goofing around with their friend in a silver game and they don't really have any skins on that account, they just have a couple of champions, they just bought that account from $30 for $30 from whatever buyaccounts.com. They're not going to care as much, right? They're just going to say, whatever, I'm just going to, run my mouth on this account because I don't care if it gets banned. And sometimes maybe they don't care if they lose either, so that can lead to other types of non-verbal toxicity, like just AFKing more or inting more, or soft inting with like troll champs and troll builds and things like that. So that gives Smurfs a bad rap, is because people don't care as much because it's not their main elo, and there's a higher likelihood that there could have been some toxic behavior in there. Okay, so these are why people often don't like Smurfs, right? It's potentially ruining lower elo games, giving undeserved elo, boosting people up to higher games where they don't belong, and then a higher likelihood for toxic behavior. Okay, but what are some potential ethical reasons for Smurfing? And I have ethical in quotes because it kind of depends on how you're seeing your ethics, but this is at least gray, right? So this isn't like outright, this is bad, this is toxic. Most people would say, hey, this stuff is bad. It's not going to keep you from climbing, but it is bad. It's creating feels bad moments in games. It's creating more lopsided games on sort of a very small scale basis. In the short term, it's creating uneven games. So that's bad. Most people are going to say all this stuff is bad. This stuff is a little bit more gray. Some people will say this stuff is bad, but there could be some situations if you open your mind up, you keep an open mind here. And I realize this. I open my mind up a little bit playing on my Smurf, realizing some of these things and just thinking more carefully about it. These are some reasons that it could be at least acceptable in some circumstances, right? Okay, so number one is it allows you to level up an alt account so that you can dodge more games, okay? So especially once you start getting into the higher brackets, you start getting into high platinum, low diamond, and above that, you're probably going to have to dodge games more often if you're trying to climb. The main reason for that is it requires an increasing amount of very specialized skill as you go up and up and up the ladder, right? So by the time you get to diamond, it's kind of like in real life. You don't want an electrician coming and doing your plumbing work, right? You don't want someone who's your mechanic doing open heart surgery on you, right? So, as you work in the professional scene, there's going to be more and more specialists that have more training that do very specific things really well. It's like that in League of Legends too, right? You have someone who is not only a mid main, but they play like two champions, right? They might play Zed and Talon. They have 1,000 games on each one of those. They're very good on those champions, but if they don't get those champions, then they're really bad. They might have like a 40% win rate on everything else. And that it just goes more and more like that until you get to pro players. Pro players are often very diverse because they have to be. But until you get to like the best of the best, a lot of people who get to diamond and higher are specialists. They're very, very good at one role, and usually a very small set of champions, like 5 champions that they get really known for, 5 or less, usually 3 or less, sometimes one trick. And if they're not on those champions, then they're not nearly as good. So that means that you have to dodge more. And that can apply to you too, and that's where the ethics come in, right? Like if I am if I'm a support main, I'm playing in Diamond 4, yeah, I can play a pretty high-level Rakan, a pretty high-level Maokai, Nami. I've got, some supports in my wheelhouse that I can play. They're good. But then if I get, like, auto-filled top lane, Diamond, right, and I get placed up against a Riven one-trick who has 3,000 games on Riven, and I've played 2 top lane games all season, is that fair to my team in those games, or should I have to dodge in those games, right? A lot of people would say I should dodge because I'm not going to be able to put up a good game. And that's the thing is it's going to happen a lot because, if you're trying to climb, you're going to have to dodge not only for yourself, but you're going to have to dodge for other people. You're going to have to do that research and just say, hey, this ADC on this game got auto-filled top lane. He's never played top lane all season. That's probably going to be really bad. So yes, it's going to happen on the enemy team too sometimes. And they've tried to fix this. They've created autofill parity. They're working on it. But if you have 2 or 3 people on your team that aren't playing their main role, you got to dodge or it's going to be a lost game, pretty much. You might be able to power through it. The thing is, in like silver and gold, a lot of times, especially if you're a really strong player, you can kind of power through the picks a lot of times because you're going to have a lot more like ability to carry especially if you're smurfing, so you don't have to dodge as many games. But if you're playing at that high level, you got 3 people that are auto-filled, or they're auto-filling themselves. Maybe they just queued up for mid and they're a jungle main, but they just got tired of it. They're just bored. That happens all the time at D4. People just kind of give up. They're like, all right, I'm not going any higher. This is the account that has all my champs. I don't want to level up another account, but I saw, Tarzan do a fun game with Olaf. I want to play some Olaf. Whatever, I got a few games to lose. Then they'll just jungle as Olaf, even though they're an ADC main, and they'll get smashed 0-10 for a few games, and then they'll decide, oh, I don't want to get demoted. I'm going to go back and play my for real champ now at 80 carry. Whatever, and then they have a few bad games. They get demoted to Platinum 1. They're in a terrible mood, and then they just YOLO it for the next couple of months. Happens all the time. So anyways, you have to be able to dodge. You have to be doing your research and be ready for that. And that means that you personally are going to be playing fewer auto-filled games, and you're going to save your teammates from playing auto-filled games too. I mean, maybe they are too cowardly or ignorant to pull the trigger on that dodge, but you're doing them a favor by dodging. So you're doing the ethical thing by dodging and letting people get a more fair matchup, especially if you're the one that gets auto-filled. I would argue that it's more ethical that you just take that dodge instead of give your team a loss for 20 minutes. But once again, that's great. It's up to you. Learn new champs. So this is something that's really important too. Yes, you should have a narrow champion pool. Yes, you should probably be playing, about 3 champions on your main that you're good at. But understanding other champs can also be really good. Understanding the other side of the matchup, right? So even if you only play Janna all the time as support, it might be nice to understand, well, what's it like to play Nautilus? What's it like to play Leona against Janna, right? To understand the other side of that matchup, so you can really get a sense of, oh, I feel really weak, at level 3 versus this Janna, or oh, I feel, these restrictions at these levels. And you can try that at, maybe if you play support, you could try out ADC. And then you can, that's something, I played ADC a little bit, and I kind of got an appreciation, wow, they're just really weak early. It's like, yeah, a lot of these, ADCs, I was thinking, oh, they're terrible, this person's really bad, and all this stuff, and they're just having no agency in this game, and it's like, well, it's just a really weak role in the early game in solo queue a lot of times. And once you play it a few times, you're like, oh, man, playing Ezreal actually is pretty hard. Like, it's difficult to play Ezreal, and you can get a better appreciation for that. And moderate your expectations. Just say, okay, maybe I'm not going to go all in level 2 with Ezreal when we're versing a Draven or a Misfortune, because we're going to get blown out. So it just allows you to see the game from different perspectives, but you're not costing yourself elo, and you're also not caught on your main, and you're also not putting your team at a very competitive disadvantage on your main, right? So if you're playing something you don't know how to play down a little bit more, that's actually going to create a more fair game. Right? So if you're a mid-platinum support main and you just want to try out ADC or jungle, it might actually be more fair for you to play on a low gold account, because you're not going to be as good. You're not going to know the champion as well, and that's going to be more fair for everyone than if you played it on your platinum. If you just YOLO played it on your platinum, you're putting your team at a major competitive disadvantage, and they're probably going to lose unless you get carried, right? Versus if you drop down a little bit, then that's going to allow you a lot more freedom to make a lot of mistakes and learn your champion without putting your team at a severe disadvantage, because you still have the macro knowledge, you still have a lot of the mechanical knowledge is going to transfer over, but you can learn the champion without feeling like you're dragging down your team, and without literally dragging down your team and giving them losses. So that's one way to look at it as well. And one final thing that I'll talk about here as far as games go is better games for content creators. Now, this is something that's really important that a lot of people don't think about, and I was thinking about some of these, but not all of them, as far as content creators go. And what I mean by that is people making YouTube videos, streamers on Twitch, all that stuff. Having Smurfs is really, really nice for several reasons, and that's going to help your content. It's going to help you grow as a content creator a lot. So number one is you can dodge troll games. So that's something else, right? And that kind of goes with dodging there. So dodging is going to allow you to, get to dodge a bit more when you get auto-filled or when someone else gets auto-filled on your team. But it's also going to lead to just better games in general for your stream to watch, right? So not only are you not going to lose a game when you have, first-time Teemo jungle in your low diamond game, but now your stream doesn't have to watch that. They don't have to waste 20 minutes watching that, because when they're watching that, they're going to be kind of getting annoyed, and you're going to be getting annoyed too. So you're going to be stressed out a little bit more, It could potentially like ruin your mindset if that happens a lot. You know, if that happens to you 3 or 4 games in a row, which it definitely can and definitely has happened to me before, if that happens 3 or 4 games in a row, then you might get tilted, right? You may not be thinking straight. So then if you get a decent game, you're already so, you know, annoyed by the previous 3 games, even if you're not outright raging and, you know, calling people names and flipping chairs and stuff, right? You're going to be a little annoyed potentially if you just lost, you know, 70 elo to trolls, and then sometimes it can be hard to recover because as a content creator you can't really take a break, right? Like you're streaming for 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever it is, you got to keep going. A lot of other like sites will tell you, hey, if you get stressed out, if you get tilted, you know, just take a break, go for a walk for 15 minutes, go do some homework, clean your house or whatever. And that is really good advice. Oh, it's Rory. Hi. What are you doing? You want to give Daddy a hug? And that is really solid advice if you can do it. But as a content creator, you can't do it. I can't just walk away for 15 minutes and say, hold on, guys, just check this chair out for 15. And I'll come back. Hi, Rory. Oh, we're getting a hug for Rory. There's Rory. Yeah, Daddy just got back from a little trip, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, are you happy Daddy's back?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's happy.
Rocks?
Oh, we got you some rocks. Did you show her the rocks?
Yes.
Oh,
She
show her
liked
the
her
rocks. Oh, Rory, they got some rocks for you in there.
She saw her rocks.
Oh,
Okay.
could you give me a bar?
Oh, you want a bar, Rory? We got you a bar, yeah. But yeah, you don't have to play those games. So now you don't have to get stressed out. Your stream doesn't have to get stressed out. You can just go Smurf and play something else. Oh, good job. Yummy, yummy. We got Rory a bar. Yeah. Oh, be careful. Sadie's sleeping. Yeah, you can pet her. Good job. So yeah, so that's just good. You don't have to play through those troll games. You can just dodge, go play on your Smurf account. No big deal. And then another thing is you can play more diverse champs. People all the time are asking, hey, play this champ. Hey, play that champ. You know, and if you're playing on a Smurf, you know, winning matters, but it probably doesn't matter as much. So you might be able to play something that, oh, be careful grabbing her. You might be able to play something that is maybe not in your wheelhouse, per se. So if you're a Janna main, you know, and maybe they want you to play Leona. You stay in Daddy's room. Oh, where'd her chair go? Oh, it's right there. You can put it down. I'll just sit there. So you could try that out, right? You could try out a Leona game. People are asking for Leona. You could try out Leona. Or you could do some kind of gimmicky thing. Like, I'm going to go through and play every champ or something, you know, unranked to diamond.
The big pole?
Oh, the big Poe? I think it's in there. Mommy can get it for you. I think it's in there.
Poe's in the kitchen.
Go get it. You want to watch it in Daddy's room on the chair over there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you got to get it with Mommy, and you can watch it over there. Come on, honey. Good job.
Here, can you put this block away?
So yeah, you can just play more diverse champs. You can make a gimmick out of it, or you can just listen to your chat more and just give people what they want a little bit more occasionally, right? They're saying, go play Karma, go play Leona, go play this, go play that. Or if you just want to try something out. I mean, that's something else too. It's like maybe you want to try out Karma because she's getting played more. Maybe you want to try out Bard because he's one of the highest win rate supports right now. So it just allows you to play more diverse champs. You can have a higher win rate too. Now this one's a bit more sketchy. But as a content creator, you know, you got to understand that a lot of people are judging you based on not only your highest rank, but your win rate, right? So if you're a 50-50 player who is high diamond or whatever, people are not going to look as fondly on that as if you are a 70% win rate diamond player. Especially when they come in and they haven't seen you before and you just keep winning and it's like, hey, I've won 8 games in a row tonight or whatever. They're going to be like, wow, that's awesome. Not even, you know, even though you're playing on your Smurf, right? Even though you're playing against weaker opponents, people just see that high win rate and it's going to make people want to sub to you more, watch your content more. You know, they're going to think that you're awesome because you're winning all these games. You know, you're able to make these sick out plays because your opponents don't know how to counterplay it. They can't flash fast enough, you know, in silver as they might be able to do in diamond or master. So you get to make all these like cool plays on people, and it makes you look good, and that means you're going to get a higher view count, more subs, all that kind of stuff. So is that ethical? I don't know. That's sketchier, but you know, you got to pay bills. You're a content creator, you got to pay some bills. YouTube doesn't pay you that much in ad revenue. You really got to have some kind of subs or sell some t-shirts or coffee mugs or coaching sessions or something, right? If you're actually trying to make this your career. And so it's hard to hate on people for just trying to pay some bills, you know? I mean, there's a certain limit to that. That one is a bit more gray, right? Because you're basically abusing people that are weaker than you so that you can make more profit a lot of times. So that one's a bit on shakier ground. But I think the dodge troll games and more diverse champs is definitely good. Another thing that sort of is connected with that is the do-it-yourself fallacy, the DIY. So people will market this, unranked to challenger as, watch me do it, and then you can do it too, right? If you go and watch Tarzan, jungle all of these things, or Soul Renekton only, or whoever it is that's doing this unranked to challenger, the implicit fallacy there is, oh, if I watch that and I learn, then I can do that and climb out. So it's like, if I watch Tarzan play challenger games, I can't do that. Everyone there is challenger. It's not realistic for me. But if I watch him play silver games, then all of a sudden I can do that because I'm playing against the same opponents. The problem is you're not Tarzan in silver, right? And so the kinds of plays that he's making, even though he might explain a lot of what he's doing, you're not going to be able to do it exactly like he is, more than likely, right? And so it can give you this sense, this kind of false sense that if you watch them, then you're going to be able to climb a lot faster. So it's cool, it's different, seeing how they adjust their play to lower levels, how they can be more aggressive, pick more like risky picks and get paid off for it, snowball games, snowball your leads harder. So there's definitely some good stuff there and stuff to learn, and I think all of those guys are, good content creators. But that is another thing where it can attract more attention and get people to watch your video because they're going to think it's potentially more relatable. The last few things here, more interactivity with the chat. When you're playing at a really high level, it takes a lot of focus. And that's what I'm coming to appreciate more and more. If you're really trying to climb, every game has to be 100%, right? You're coming in, you are laser focused, and you are doing everything you possibly can to win that game, right? You have every timer, running in your head at the same time. You know exactly where the jungler is. You have the exact pixel of your skill shot so that you're not going to get hit by theirs, but you're going to hit them with yours. You have everything timed out. You're anticipating they're going to use their ultimate right here, and you're ready to flash. You're ready to flash that Malphite ult. You're ready to flash, whatever fancy thing they're going to be doing to you. So you got to be laser focused. You got to be ready. And if you're doing that, a lot of times you just can't interact with the chat as much. You can't be telling old man stories. This is something I'm very guilty of, and something that I've come to realize a lot more lately is there's just so much stuff that I overlook when I'm interacting with the chat a lot. And I do love interacting with the chat a lot. It's really fun. I think it's something that makes my channel fairly unique, is that I can, hold not only about League, but a variety of conversations about a lot of stuff. Literature, philosophy, cultural stuff, history stuff, all this stuff. So it kind of makes for fun conversations. But if I'm sitting here like explaining or theorizing about Renaissance philosophers or Roman history or Bill Dungsgrim in literature or whatever, I'm not going to be able to focus on all that other stuff. That's just a fact, right? I'm using some brain power to hold that conversation, and that brain power is not going towards League. So in theory, if I were really trying to climb as fast as I possibly could, I would not be able to talk with the chat as much. But if you're on your Smurf, because you're playing against weaker opponents, you can use that brain power to talk with the chat more. You can explain your builds more. You can talk about League theory. You can talk about some old man stories. It just frees you up to have a much more conversation, a much more conversational chat. So that is one thing there. And just lower stress. When you're playing on your Smurf, you can just kind of chill out, unwind. You can't take 15 minutes off to go for a walk or whatever, but you can play on your Smurf, try some different champs, learn some different stuff, hang out with the chat, and just enjoy kind of lower stakes. But then when you zone in and you're going for that climb, you got to laser focus. So you can mix and match. You can say, okay, I'm going to do like a laser focus, zoned in game right now. I'm feeling good. We're going to get one or two like hardcore games in here, try to get some wins. And then we can go back and go on the Smurf and play something else, right? So that's one of the biggest things is you cannot go on loss streaks if you're trying to climb. You cannot lose 5 or 6 in a row because that's just absolutely terrible. And usually that'll only happen if you get tilted, right? If you're just playing your standard normal games of League, you're probably going to go 50-50, and if you're climbing, you might sprinkle in an extra win on top every now and then. right? So if you lose, a couple in a row, you can just go on your Smurf, play that, get your mind settled, and then you can go back and play on your main, or you can just stay on the Smurf the rest of the night if you want to, and just give it a shot tomorrow. Okay, final things, and I guess it's not going to be 30 minutes, but we'll try to get it done in 40. The last couple of things I want to talk about here is how can Smurfing actually help you improve your main? So not just from a content creator's perspective, and I've already hit on a lot of this, but also just for people at home, if you're not a content creator and you're just trying to improve your own game, because it's commonly thought that if you play on your Smurf, you're going to get rusty, you're playing against weaker competition, so you're not going to be able to climb as much. And some of that is true if you never play on your main again, and it can be kind of jarring depending on where your Smurf is. If your main's in like Master and your Smurf's in Bronze or something, yeah, it's going to be jarring jumping back and forth. But if you're only like one division lower or so, or like one league lower, if you're a Diamond main and you're Smurfing in Platinum, then it's not like that much of a jump. There's some, but not something where you're going to be like ultra rusty playing it. So there is a little bit of rust there, but there are some other benefits. Number one, more dodging. Just talked about that earlier. I think that you have to do that. If you want a high win rate, if you want the 55% plus that you need to climb at like a pretty accelerated pace, you just have to dodge, right? If it's on your main, if you're not Smurfing, if you're not a challenger working your way through Diamond, if you're just organically going through Diamond and you've never been much higher, you're going to have to dodge because, like I said, it's going to be really hard for you to carry 2 or 3 people just naturally as a Diamond player if they're all auto-filled, or if they're all playing something they have no experience on. So you just got to pull the trigger and dodge. Even a 10-point dodge, you just got to do it. You got to dodge a lot of games. That's just how it is. That's just how League of Legends is balanced. It just heavily encourages people to one-trick or like somewhere between specialize in 1 to 3 champions. Random matchmaking. People may or may not get their champs. So that's tough. So once again, the enemy team, they're going to have people that are auto-filled too. They're going to have people playing weird champs, but you just don't have that information. That'd be really, really nice if Riot gave you that information. I'll talk about that in a separate video about one-tricking, so stay tuned for that. But if they would just tell you the names of your opponents, that way you could at least see, okay, we have 2 autofills on our team. Their team also has 2 autofills. I guess we can try to play it, and then there's less need to dodge. But right now, you just don't know. So if you have 2 or 3 on your team, it can be kind of rough. Okay, you can practice with much less stress. So that's what I just talked about a second ago, is when you're playing on your main, if you're honestly trying to climb, you can't goof around. You can't be sitting there, listening to all kinds of weird stuff, having a conversation with your roommate, texting your friend, tabbing out, and like changing your music that you're listening to. All that stuff is going to be a distraction. So you have to focus up. It has to be 100%. If you're honestly trying to climb, you have to just use all of your brain power on the game. And that can get exhausting. It really is. If you go like all in hard focus on a game, it might be really hard to do another game after that. So if you're able to Smurf, you can go down, chill. That's where you can kind of listen to your music, text your lady friend, have a conversation with your roommate. Whatever it is, you can kind of zone out, watch Netflix on your second monitor, whatever's going on. That's where you can chill. And if you have losses, you can go over there, just get off that loss streak, just win it, get a couple of wins under your belt, feel a little bit better, feel like the world is not a grand conspiracy against you, feel like Riot's not out to get you. And then if you're hot, though, then you can go back and play on your main. So if you win 2 or 3 in a row on your Smurf, you say, all right, I'm going to go on my main, I'm going to play it. This way, you're getting a lot of practice in League, so you're refining your skills, you're learning stuff, you're becoming better, but you're only playing your best games. Ideally, you're playing your best games on your main, and so that means you're going to have fewer games on there and fewer sort of throwaway trash games on your main where you just weren't focused, you weren't playing your best champion, your team had a bunch of troll picks on it or people not on their main champs. Just those throwaway games. If you just weed all of that out, you can probably get a 60% win rate. Certainly on your best champs, you can probably get a 60% win rate on your main if you're just weeding out all of those other games. And just get those out of the way, either with dodges or playing on your Smurf or whatever. Just get those non-focused games out of the way and only play on your main when you're hyper-focused. The last thing that I'll mention here is I think that learning the jungle is huge. Now, I'm not saying you have to main the jungle or even become like a master of the jungle or anything like that. I think just everyone needs a little bit of experience in the jungle. And this kind of takes me back to when I was a server in a restaurant for 8 years. It's just really good to do something in the serving industry just so that you understand how it works and so that you can have more reasonable expectations for what's going on. Right? You know, sometimes if you come out and if you haven't ever worked in a restaurant, you might think, oh, what the heck? They have open tables there, but they just told me it's going to be a 30-minute wait. Why don't they just sit me down right there? Or, oh my God, you know, the food was supposed to be here in 30 minutes. It's taking 45 minutes. You know, what's wrong with these people? You know, or something like that, right? Where in fact, it's like, well, that table's being held for a reservation. Or, you know, maybe there's a party that's scheduled that's going to come in 10 minutes and we have to combine that table with another table, pull them together to create a party. And the reason that your food maybe took 15 minutes longer is because maybe they discovered something wasn't as fresh as they thought. Maybe it hadn't been refrigerated correctly and they wanted to give you the freshest, best piece of fish they could find. Or maybe someone dropped it on the floor and on accident. And maybe instead of just dusting it off and throwing it back on the plate, maybe they actually just made a fresh one for you. So there's all kinds of things that can actually be really good things that you want that are going on behind the scenes, but it might look like it's bad service or it might look like it's inconvenient to you. It's sort of like that in the jungle too, right? There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes in the jungle, and that's what I played mostly on my Smurf that I really didn't appreciate until I tried to play it myself. And now I think it's made me a lot better player as a support just because I know some about the jungle, right? So certain timings, right? So certain junglers, you know, really like certain pathing. So is it a 3-camp gank jungler? Is it going to be a jungler who does, you know, blue, gromp, red gank? There are certain kinds of junglers that do that, like Xin Zhao and some of these early duelist junglers might do that. Is it a farm jungler? Is it someone who just wants to go through and clear out everything? You know, something like an Evelyn, something like a Karthus, it's not going to be ganking you early. Is it something that's kind of versatile? Can your jungler beat their jungler in a 2v2, right? So if it's like, okay, you have a Nunu on your team and they have an Evelyn on their team and they're about to fight for Scuttle in your river, you know, you want to, depending on your situation, you have to decide, am I going to go help that Scuttle or not? And just learning how much that matters that you get that Scuttle. I mean, I know in like Challenger level ELO, people know that Scuttle's important, but you know, it's something that I thought was important, but now I put a huge priority on it, is that I, you know, rotate over there and help them with the Scuttle. Or if they're getting invaded, you drop what you're doing and you get over there and you help with that invade, right? Because I know what it's like to be a jungle when I'm getting invaded and my lanes don't move to help me with that invade. That's extremely frustrating, right? So not only do they get my camp, they get a little piece of my soul when they do that because I'm pissed off when they take my stuff, right? So, you know, it depends on the situation, but just understanding that from the jungler's perspective, how frustrating it is when your lanes don't rotate to go help you on an invade, when they don't help you get Scuttle, when they don't help you with vision, they're not warding anything, so you have no idea where the enemy jungler is, or you have no idea if Dragon's warded because, you know, they're not helping you out with wards. Or you try to go down and gank, but they haven't swept the bushes, they don't have a control ward, they're not prepping for you. And your gank fails and you just wasted 15 seconds. So I know that as a support now. Now I know, okay, jungler just pinged me bottom. He's coming down. I need to make sure these bushes are swept, right? Or I know that this person, like we just saw their jungler top side. So I know that our jungler is going to want to go take dragon. So I'm going to go ahead and put my control ward in the dragon pit instead of just putting it in like somewhere in one of the lane bushes, right? To get like lane control. I can use that control ward on the dragon and let the Nunu sneak the dragon while I'm doing the lane, because we see their jungler top. So just understanding these different things. And sometimes they just can't really gank your lane. That's another thing, is like, yeah, it's nice if they can gank bottom a lot and kill bottom. But if you're playing something like Soraka or Janna bottom, you don't have a lot of kill threat. Especially against if they're playing like Yuumi, Ezreal or something. They can't really help you. And if you fall behind, they can't gank that. It's really hard to gank that. So they might have to just help out, you know, the Darius versus Riven matchup top, because that's the more volatile matchup. That's where they're going to get better kills. And sometimes you just have to deal with it. If you are losing your lane, sometimes it's a really bad idea for the jungler to gank for you. I had something the other day where, you know, somebody was, it might have been Darius versus Mordekaiser or something top. I don't remember what it was. But then the Mordekaiser ended up getting 2 solo kills on the Darius early. Mordekaiser was level 6, and this Darius kept pinging me to gank. I was new. I was like, I can't gank that because he's just going to press his ult and ult one of us, and he's going to force a 1v1. Because, of course, Darius doesn't have a QSS, and he was going to die in the 1v1. So there are just situations like that where I think people just ping a lot, and they have just too many expectations for the jungler. The jungler's going to be able to win my lane for me. Jungler's got to come and bail me out when I'm behind. You know, why are we losing dragons? Sometimes you have to give up dragons. If your team's really far behind, if both your mid lane and bot lane are getting pushed in and they're, you know, each down 20 CS, you might have to give a dragon or two. So just learn a little jungle. I'm not saying you have to main jungle, but if you make a Smurf, just play like 20 games or something in the jungle. Just get a sense of it. Just play a couple of different types of junglers, especially ones that are really common, and just kind of get a feel for, you know, watch a video or two, just get a feel for, okay, here's their pathing, here's what it feels like, here's how it feels when you get invaded and you're trying to deal with that, here's how it feels when your lanes are losing and it's hard to figure out which one you should try to gank for, or if you should just farm and not gank at all. That's another thing, is when you're like farming, people want you to stop what you're doing and go gank, always, right? They're like, hey, we're pushed in here, stop farming. You know, when you've got a full jungle, you've got like blue buff, wolves, and Gromp. And, you know, it's something like Soraka, Caitlyn bottom, and they're getting pushed in, and they're, you know, they're down 30 CS to Draven Leona or something, and they want you to come down and gank. It's like, dude, we're probably not going to win that, first of all. Especially, you have no vision, especially if their enemy jungler shows up, and I have 3 camps here that are guaranteed money. I was like, I'll come down and take a look at it, but I'm doing these camps first. So it just depends. You got to understand, junglers, a lot of them need some kind of gold. They need some experience. So yeah, they shouldn't sit in the jungle all day power farming, but it's like really good, efficient pathing. They need to get those camps first, and then they can come gank for you. Unless it's like Code Red, this is easy, like they're at 1% health or something, then sure, go ahead and down there to get it. But a lot of situations, people just expect you to drop what you're doing and just go gank for them 24/7. When most of the time it's a waste of time. Because if it was a good gank, you probably would have already been down there if you were paying attention. But anyway, so I think that learning stuff like timings, different power levels, and just developing realistic expectations, like, okay, I know what it's like to be Graves, I know what it's like to be new level 7 with these items in this game state. Right, and so I think that it's just really nice. It's like working in the service industry a little bit. Is stuff that people take for granted. People don't understand how it works. There's just a lot of magic that goes on behind the scenes once you've experienced it. And then that'll give you a better, a more reasonable understanding of what's happening from a laner's perspective. So you can play around your jungler better. You can help them with invades. You can help them with vision. You can help them with objectives a lot more. You can not spam ping them if you know it's going to be a failed gank and you're just frustrated because you're losing. You know, you're going to be able to emotionally handle it, hopefully, right? If they decide to camp another lane, that's going to be a lot more successful, and you're just going to have to suck it up and just minimize your losses. It's like, yeah, it sucks. You're getting pushed in all game, but it is better for them to snowball that Darius top lane because he's doing better. You've already died twice. You're kind of a lost cause at that point. Hopefully you picked a champion that scales, but that's just how it goes, and that's the smart thing for the jungler to do. So you just have to put yourself aside, put your ego aside, say you're not the only person in this game. There are 4 other people. Sometimes junglers screw up. Obviously, they screw up, but they don't screw up nearly as much as people think they do, and they don't get nearly enough credit for the amount of harassment and heat that they take all the time. It's so much harder as a jungler than it is a support. Just the constant, I even have chat disabled, but just like the constant pings and just the sheer stupidity of people. And I'm not even like a great jungler. I can only imagine, you know, what some of the top end challenger junglers are thinking about their teammates' ludicrous requests. But anyway, so that's just something that helps out a ton. It'll help you play around your jungler. It'll save you a lot of stress if you're being honest about it, and it'll help you play your lanes a lot better too. Anyways, that's it. We'll keep it below 45 minutes. We're working our way down to 15 to 30. We're trimming down from an hour, but hopefully this will help you out a little bit. So big takeaway here. I think there are some things that can be ethical about smurfing, like I mentioned. Sure, there are a lot of bad things, but you know, there are a lot of good things too. The big one is, you know, being able to dodge more games, try out new champs, play in a lower stress environment, and that way you're still playing League, but you're saving your 100% pure concentration games for your main, and that's going to allow you to climb and sort of prune away some of those trash games where you're not focused, you're playing the game with a bunch of troll stuff on your team when you could have just dodged it, but you don't want to dodge because you don't have a Smurf, and you just want to play some League of Legends, that's bad. That's really bad for climbing when you're playing just because, when you're just YOLOing. So a Smurf allows you to be much more strategic in the games that you're playing while not giving up playing League altogether. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and we'll see you next time.